The Toronto Raptors go into Dallas and get absolutely smacked. They were down by nearly 40 at halftime, and it didn't get too much better in the second half. This was a pretty listless performance, but you would be forgiven, or at least the Raptors would be forgiven, because they were outsized badly. The Dallas Mavericks had healthy Anthony Davis plus Derek Lively, and then off the bench, they had Daniel Gafford. The Raptors, for their part, had Scottie Barnes and Jonathan Mobo. Those were their biggest players. At one point, Garrett Temple, yes, 455-year-old Garrett Temple was playing power forward. Ochai Agbaji splashed his first 6 threes. That half-court heave didn't count to end the first quarter, and it was a really good game for him overall. He even had a drive move, in transition where he sort of shoulder bumped a guy. You can tell Ochai Agbaji is pretty locked in. This is going to be a big summer for him. We're going to talk about a lot in today's game. We're going to talk about how Scottie struggled in this game, but then ultimately persevered. He does finish the game with 26 points. And I got to tell you, to start this game, this was looking about 7 minutes into this game. I called it. I said, this is the worst I've ever seen Scottie Barnes look offensively. Shut him down for the season. His hand, he's grimacing every single time. The shot, it's not there. The touch, it's not there. The free throw shooting. This is the first time since 4 months and I think 15 days, 4 months and 19 days ago was the last time that Scottie Barnes missed more than 4 free throws in a game. He's been really good from the free throw line this season. And tonight he goes 2 for 8, I believe. So let's just take a look at this game. Talk very briefly about this. We'll talk about some broader implications for the Raptors, specifically what the hell are they doing? Why are they resting guys right now? There's nothing at all to gain by losing these games. Nothing. There's nothing to gain by resting RJ Barrett or Emmanuel Quickley or Jakob Poeltl. If nothing else, you're just setting your team out there to be embarrassed. And I'm not really sure what you're getting. If the goal of this season was development, then why are you not playing Emmanuel Quickley and Scottie Barnes to get some reps against a team, by the way, that actually has something to play for right now? The Dallas Mavericks clearly put their best foot forward in this game, and they wanted to win this game. If you want to test yourself, if you want real credible reps, you're going to do it against this team. You're not going to do it against Washington and Charlotte. And, I just don't get this team, man. You had 8 healthy bodies tonight, 8, and you played 7 because you didn't think it was fair to put Chris Boucher out there. I don't get it, man. Unless there's some sort of controversy going on behind the scenes. We'll also talk about the latest roster news, and we'll talk about Scottie's injury. So the latest roster news is the Raptors have cut Cole Swider, who we thought presumably was going to be signed for the rest of the season. They also cut Orlando Robinson, which came as a huge surprise to me. And they have brought back Colin Castleton as of, I want to say, 30 minutes ago. And they signed AJ Lawson to a 2-year deal. No news on Jared Rhoden. I actually I don't think I'd be wrong in saying Jared Rhoden and Orlando Robinson were probably the 2 most impressive of the bunch, with AJ Lawson, Colin Castleton being 3rd and 4th. And I got to say, the least impressive for me was Cole Swider, so nothing lost there. But it's very possible that Orlando Robinson just didn't want to sign a non-guaranteed deal. The Raptors do have a lot riding on the line in terms of making their end-of-bench roster moves. But here's the box score, right? Jameson Battle, he hit some late, 3 for 9 from 3. Jamal Shed, 1 for 9 from 3. Scottie Barnes, 0 for 3 from 3. Jonathan Mobo, 0 for 2 from 3. Yes, I can confirm all of those threes were wide open. Scottie does finish this game as a -10. He was a huge, huge part of that early deficit that they built up. But I can tell you, after his first stint, the Raptors played the Mavericks even with him on the court. So he turned this game around big time. When he was on the court, he was all over the glass. He was really, defending really well. But it's just, that jump shot, they left him open consistently and he just couldn't make it. But he was finding crafty ways to get to the basket. He hit a hook shot over Anthony Davis. And I got to tell you, I mean, if nothing else, this was a brilliant, brilliant exhibition for Scottie Barnes to kind of see where his work needs to come, because the Dallas Mavericks played him pretty much straight up tonight. They didn't collapse on him. They didn't, double in the middle. So they pretty much played him straight up. And when it was a smaller defender, he took him right to the basket. When it was Anthony Davis, he usually found a way to sort of craft around him, do a little rip through dribble. It is encouraging to some extent when your jump shot's not falling and everyone knows your jump shot's not falling and you're grimacing and you're holding your hand and everyone can see that. You really have only one option. It's to go right to the basket. And Scottie doesn't have elite burst. He's not Anthony Davis. He's not, sorry, Anthony Edwards. He's not John Morant. So to kind of slow dribble your way to the basket that way, it takes a lot of skill, and it takes a tighter handle than Scotty currently has. It takes a little bit more manipulation in terms of shifting your weight, and kind of figuring out your balance and sort of slowing down, stepping up. That decel dribble, that half dribble, that stuff is just, it's coming. You can see it coming year by year. If you're really tracking Scotty Barnes, you can see it. But nevertheless, right, there's a random person who, Eugene Amaruyi, apparently he dressed tonight. That's a G League call up. He plays for the G League team. He did not play a single minute. I don't understand why ESPN has him on the box score. I can assure you he didn't actually play. Garrett Temple went 0 for 5 from 3. AJ Lawson went 1 for 4 from 3. And the Raptors collectively went 11 for 39 from 3. If you take AJ Lawson out of that, that is probably the worst three-point shooting percentage you've ever seen. Because, I mean, geez, bro, like Jamal Shed, I'm pretty sure Jamal Shed was 0 for 8 until he hit that final 3. It was just the shooting tonight, man. You just shoot so poorly. They shoot so well. On their side, they couldn't miss. 44% from 3, 55% from the field. Anthony Davis was flirting with a quadruple double pretty much the entire night. I don't know where the 6th and 7th block came from, but on the box score he had 5, and then suddenly he had 7. So, nice little hometown scorekeeping, shall we say. If you go back and track a couple of those Michael Jordan games in 1988, it's actually confirmed that there were games where they credited him with like 5 blocks and he only had 2. So yeah, hometown stat keeping. Remember that the next time you bring up stats. Some of them are absolutely bullshit. I don't understand the Chris Boucher DMPCD. I really don't. But nevertheless, this game was what it was. The Raptors, they trailed huge at halftime. I mean, it was really like embarrassing. They played them pretty close up until the end of the first quarter. It was 23-24, largely being kept together by Ochai Agbaji. But then, Scottie Barnes kind of comes in for that final stretch in the first quarter. They go on a huge run, make a whole bunch of shots. The Raptors make a ton of mistakes. There's turnovers, a couple of them from Scottie. And, that gigantic run, it's just like, you just can't score. You can't score. And they're just pulling away. That second quarter was just abysmal. They kept pace largely in the third quarter. They tied them 30-29. And in the fourth quarter, they actually win that quarter. So, yeah, it's just like you had a 14-minute disaster stretch. You take that 14 minutes off, you actually win this game. But that's not how basketball works. The Dallas Mavericks decided this game is going to be over. We're not playing with our food here. I'm going to tell you the truth. If I was running the Dallas Mavericks, I tanked this game. They have no reason. They've already locked up a play-in seed. If you want to get home court advantage in the play-in, I think it's short-sighted. You're not going to make it out of, the second round of the play-in. I think either Memphis or Minnesota are going to smack you. I'm pretty sure they're going to smack you. And if they're not going to smack you, no offense, I'm pretty sure OKC is going to smack you. So at this point, it's like, what are you trying to do? Like you could probably lose these next 2 games and better your draft pick and still have a chance at the play-in, at which point, you go on the road, you face Dallas, and then, you go on the road and you face the next team. And then if you decide to win those games, I mean, I'm not saying the Dallas Mavericks don't have a talented roster. Anthony Davis, anytime you have Anthony Davis, you have a chance. But a chance at what? This is a team that had Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic and decided to tank for Derek Lively. That's what they did 2 years ago. And it paid off because they went to the finals the next year, and Derek Lively played a huge part in that. In this draft, dare I say, there might even be more on the line for them. So why give up a lottery pick? That lottery pick could also be converted into, a trade package for Kevin Durant. I don't know. I just thought it was short-sighted. I fully expected the Dallas Mavericks to come out tonight and sort of tank this game. And it kind of puts into perspective just how happy I was that the Raptors secured the number 7 pick last, there was at least the number 7 odds last game. I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, Harrison Barnes saved our season. Turns out the Raptors were fully capable of saving their own damn season because a game later, and now I'm looking at this lineup that the Raptors just trotted out today, and I have no idea what they're planning on doing Sunday. Are they planning on playing Emmanuel Quickley? Are they going to play a fully healthy roster? They're going to try to win the last game of the season? I don't know. But what I can tell you is You have nothing to lose by winning games right now. Nothing. Why not get the 31st and 32nd win? You have nothing to lose. It's not worsening your draft odds. When we wanted you to lose, you didn't lose. When we wanted you to rest guys, you didn't rest guys. Now you have the losing formula. You found it. You found it. Scottie Barnes and Jonathan Mobo front court is how you lose these games. Garrett Temple playing 30 minutes off the bench. That's how you lose these games. This is how you lose these games. Orlando Robinson, Jakob Poeltl, this is how you win games, man. You have size in the middle. That helps. Size helps. When you're going to go up against three gigantic, like 6'11" to 7-foot guys, and you're trotting out Scottie Barnes, and I mean, you know how many times Derek Lively could have had an alley-oop and the Dallas Mavericks just threw a really stupid pass or just missed them. Like, if they really wanted to dissect the Raptors properly tonight, if they had Kyrie Irving and they just made it their mantra, we're going to go out and win by 60, they could have won by 60 easily. I don't think the Dallas Mavericks played all that great. I mean, they played well, but I think the Raptors really helped them out, man. Turnovers fueled fast break. Silly shot selection fueled fast break. They couldn't make a shot to save their lives. Long shot, long rebound, boom, transition. Not communicating super well. And then, of course, the jump shot for Scottie Barnes, right? Now, it's one thing to struggle from three. He's been struggling from three all season long, right? You can see he's kind of favoring the hand a little bit more now. He's second guessing himself. He's passing up threes. This is what you don't want to see. Now, I will say there was a time this season where that mid-range shot was butter. Like, he was hitting it turnaround over two defenders and it was going in. Right now, he couldn't throw it into an ocean from 18 feet. Can't do it. Just something. And every single time he takes that shot, you can see it. I literally watched him live last game. Every time he took a shot from like 16, 17 feet away. I don't know what happened in the third quarter for him last game because he hit a whole bunch of threes and he wasn't grimacing anymore. I don't know if they shot him up with some painkillers. But I'll tell you, in the first half, last game, you can ask Vince when he calls in, he was grabbing his hand every time down the court. Shit you notice when you attend these games and you're not watching them on TV. Now, even today, watching it on TV, forget that final play, where Dan Gafford hits his hand and, he's grimacing. There were so many times today where Scotty's grabbing his hand. When's the last time you saw Scottie Barnes go 2 for 8 from the free throw line? It's clear that hand is bothering him. Why push this? Why push it? Maybe there's some truth to this 65 game thing. Maybe he has his own, cut off in his own head that he has to make 65 games. Look, man, here's something that I noticed with the Raptors, which I don't really appreciate. Okay. And I think I've been very complimentary of this team. I've been talking about the kumbayas and the vibes and, how everything's great, and everything is great. I love the development. I love, the culture of this team. Here's something I don't like about this team. They never seem to understand the broader implications of what's going on. Does that make sense? There was a time last year where the Raptors had a play-in game, not a play-in game, an in-season tournament game. And nobody could explain at all what the rules of the in-season tournament were, the point differential. Nobody really seemed to understand it. They didn't understand, when they got eliminated, which showed me that nobody talked to them about it, which means that it didn't matter, which means why? Why did it not matter? Why are we trying to win games? We don't care about the in-season tournament. We don't care about the in-season tournament at all. Like, this isn't a way to build up some playoff experience. Look at how winning the in-season tournament helped, a team like the Pacers. Any competition should be a good thing, right? Now, what about today? Did anyone tell this team? Did anyone have a conversation with the locker room prior to the game? Say, guys, we're actually going to play everybody today because I don't know if y'all realize this, but we have nothing to play for draft pick wise right now. And we want to go out and actually stomp these two teams and give ourselves a little bit of a morale boost going into the summer. Why are we resting Chris Boucher, RJ Barrett? Like, I understand Grady Dick, apparently he's injured. He's out for the season. Fine. It really sucks that he didn't get these reps because I'll tell you, it would have been great for his development. His injury and Ulrich's injury are like the biggest what ifs and sucky parts of this season, right? It really sucks. Those two would have been getting ample minutes. Instead, those minutes are going to Cole Swider and Colin Castleton and Orlando Robinson. And frankly, those guys are not going to be part of your program. So it kind of sucks, right? Jacoby Walter, Grady Dick. Okay, I understand. Ulrich. Those guys can't play tonight. They would have played tonight if they were healthy, but they can't play tonight because they're injured. Okay. What about RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley, though? You don't think Emmanuel Quickley could use some of these reps? You don't think Emmanuel Quickley and Scottie Barnes could use some of these reps? What is the goal here? You're playing Scottie at center. How is this helping him? Are you planning on playing him at center next year? How does this help? You wanted to play Jonathan Mobo at the wing. Now he's playing big out of necessity because you've inexplicably cut Orlando Robinson. How does this help him? If this was the plan, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense. Even the Chris Boucher stuff. Like, why is Chris Boucher not playing? Like, look, y'all know me for the last 3 years. I've never been a huge Chris Boucher guy. Okay, there's some of you are huge Chris Boucher fans, and I respect the hustle. I respect the pedigree. I respect, the energy. He's a really good guy. I've had a couple of, conversations with him, and he's just like really like a couple back and forths online and stuff. He's a really cool guy. Like, you can tell his teammates like him. Probably doesn't fit the system. Probably not coming back next year unless he's coming back on a veteran minimum, at which point, if he's going to be part of your system, why do this to him in the first place? You got a lot of people confused about what's going on with Chris. And it's just like, yo, he was helping winning. Now you have nothing to lose by resting him. Why not play him? On a night where you're undermanned, he can't even get minutes. Why dress him? Like why this is humiliating. Actually, that's the broader implication of this. If there isn't a wink wink deal to bring him back on some set price, if there isn't some sort of fake injury or real injury that they're hiding, if there isn't some sort of disciplinary shit going on, then you are really hurting his ability to go out and get a deal. Because if I'm a rival general manager, I'm looking at his numbers and they're great. Like, his numbers are really good. His numbers are good enough to go out and command $4, $5, $6 million on the open market. He's not a minimum player. Like, I think he could. I mean, maybe he's a minimum player, but he's somewhere between a minimum and that. He shouldn't be out of the league next year. He's a decent player. Like, when he was playing for the Raptors, he contributed. He hustles, shoots the three a little bit, provides a little bit of shot blocking. He's a very overrated defender. But, like, this makes it harder for him to go out and get another deal, because now if I'm a rival general manager, I'm like, you couldn't even get minutes over Garrett Temple when your team was down 30. You couldn't get into the game. Like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. And I think maybe our media needs to pick it up and ask the deeper questions as to why. And don't just let Darko off the hook by saying, like, it wouldn't be fair to him. Why is it not fair to him? Is he out of shape? Let us know. Let us know he's out of shape. Is he injured? Let us know. From what I understand, he practices with the team. Why can't he play? I don't get it. And the worst part is, if he does, move on next year, I'm sure there will be a tribute video. I'm sure there'll be a welcome back, Chris. Why do this? Why do this? This is the guy who won a championship with you. I know he didn't play very much for that team, but I don't get it. And it's stupid things like this that you just don't get sometimes. You know what I mean? You just don't get it. You just don't get it. Like, I can't make sense of this. And playing Scotty Barnes when he's hurt, what's the point? What is the point? What are you getting from this? What are you gleaning from this? What are you discovering about him that you don't already know? I think tonight was a gutsy performance. He turned what was probably the worst 9-minute stretch offensively I've seen him play all season, and he pretty much scored like 26 points after that. It's pretty cool. Jonathan Mobo missed a bunch, man. 4 for 16 to follow up that triple-double performance with this. That was not great, right? Does Scotty need 65 games for all defense? Yes, he does, but all defense does not impact his contract at all. So if he's chasing all defense, cool. But he's not going to make it. I think he's been definitely one of the top 10 defenders, but there's no marketing push for him. The media here is not pushing for him to get all defense. He hasn't talked about it. You're not just going to get all defense, bro. I talk to NBA writers all the damn time. They don't watch this team. They don't care. They don't even think this team exists. When I say Jonathan Mobo had a triple-double, they're like, Jonathan who? Had a what now? Like, they don't care. I'm telling you, when you lose this many games early on in the season and you're the second worst team in the league, people check out. People don't care anymore. People aren't watching. There's no storyline here. There's no superstar emerging here. There's no rookie of the year here. There's no DPOY candidate here. There's nothing. This is not New York. This is not LA. When you lose, you become completely irrelevant. NBA markets Scotty could literally be the third best defender in the league, and I can guarantee you right now, he's probably not going to get all NBA votes. So it just kind of comes down to that, man. It's just, you got to. Sometimes it's like the Raptors don't pay mind to the outside noise, and I appreciate that about them. But sometimes you got to pay a little bit of attention to it too, right? You got to pay a little bit of attention to it. You got to be cognizant of it a little bit. I do want to give a couple shout outs. Number one, shout outs to Josh Lewenberg, man. I have talked so much shit about Josh Lewenberg. I literally think like I could have a job talking shit about Josh Lewenberg. I've really said some horrible things about that guy. I have hated his work. I've hated his coverage of Scotty Barnes the entire way through. And I've noticed something, over the last couple weeks, I've been sharing some of his stuff. And I was like, I'm sharing Josh Lewenberg stuff. Do I need to check myself? Do I need to do like a CAT scan or something? I might be losing my mind. But no, it's I read one of his articles today on Scotty Barnes' leadership and growth, and it was very fair. It was very, very fair, right? Pretty sure all D does kick in the bonus. It does not. I promise you it does not. The only way to get that bonus is MVP, DPOY. Is it most improved? I don't think most improved. So NBA, MVP, DPOY, all NBA first team, second team, third team. Those are the only ones. I promise you all defense does not kick in. If Scotty is under the impression that all defense will count for that, he is wrong. That someone lied to him. That's not the case at all. It does not. I am 99.8% sure. The 0.2% is humility. But I have been told by numerous people that is not the case. We got to talk about some other stuff. Okay, that was shout out number 1. Shout out number 2. Okay, so y'all know that we have some really awesome community members here, and all of you people do awesome things. I think most of you do really cool things. I'm always surprised to learn about you guys when I see you at Penn Dance. We might have an interaction. You tell me like you run an accounting firm or you run this cool startup, and it's really cool. Well, one of our initial subscribers, one of our OGs, if you will, they're a couple from Bermuda, and they follow. They super chat. They send it every year. You see them, you've seen them. Congrats on all your success, Rob, from Mark and Marion Booth from from Bermuda. They're always doing that, and it's really it's kind of like FA and Paul. It's kind of like family that you've never met. Now I've met FA now, so that's pretty cool. But it's like an extended family. There's like like an aunt and an uncle who are always sending you $50 for your birthday and stuff. It's really cute. So the other day, one of them, Marion, she reached out and she said, Rob, what's your address? We make these juices. They're frozen juices, and they're really healthy for you, and they're super tasty, and we want to send you some. And I was like, sure. And I sent her my address. And then a couple of days ago, this box arrived and put it in our freezer. My girlfriend is very excited to taste all of it because it is indeed very healthy. And yesterday I had a conversation with them as I was trying the juices. I gotta tell you, man, it's called Essentials Organic Juices. Okay, it's right here. Okay, really cool. You keep it frozen for up to 1 year. You keep refrigerated up to 1 week. I want to just give them a quick shout out here. On social, it's Essentials Organic Juices. And if you want to order, I will put it in the description afterwards. It's essentials441@gmail.com. That's written on the back. Nutritional facts are freaking amazing. The juice tastes amazing. I tried the berry, the blueberry yesterday. I thought it was amazing. This is elderberry. I like berries. So I just want to give them a quick shout out. They didn't ask me to do this. I didn't tell them I was going to do this. I don't know. I don't even know if I'm allowed to do this. We're not really sponsored by anybody right now because I refuse to be sponsored by gambling companies. So I just wanted to give a shout out to a community member, a pair of community members who do really, really awesome stuff. They were doing this stuff in Bermuda. Now they're doing it here. So, it's a very unique thing. They're going to be shopping this stuff around. You might be seeing this stuff at some very, very big stores very soon. The shit tastes amazing. And I got to tell you, I had so much energy today. Like, I don't know if you can tell, But if you watch the panel episode today, I'm not trying to preach that this is like some sort of magic or something. Maybe I'm just, seeing things. If you watch the panel today, I promise you earlier, I was like, I looked in the mirror, I was like, my skin hasn't looked this clear in like a month and a half to 2 months. Like I couldn't believe it. I was just like, wow. So apparently they've got a lot of feedback from people saying like it was great for my immune system. I've never been sick when I've had this. So definitely at least follow them. Give it a try. It's a community member here. We like to support our community members doing stuff just like we wanted to support Godiology initially when he was starting out. We want to support the Juice and Company. So again, that is, yeah, I'm actually going to pull their page up later when we talk about that a little bit more. Okay. What am I saying? Okay. What the hell are the Raptors doing for the rest of the season? Well, they got one more game left, which means we were on game 81 and this is game 82. We got one more game left against the San Antonio Spurs, who are currently down 15 to the hapless Phoenix Suns. And, you got one more game. I don't know who's going to play in that game. At this rate, I might play in that game. I have no idea. I don't know if Scotty's going to play in that game. He hit his hand pretty hard, but knowing him, he's probably going to try to pull through and push through. This is going to be a really big summer for the Raptors, man. It's going to be a really big summer. And I got to tell you, there was a Bleacher Report article today suggesting that the Raptors have to trade RJ Barrett because of the finances. Basically, they just don't have a path forward with this guy because financially, it's really difficult to make this roster work, right? Bingo. But I mean, we could have used you at center, Josh, like 3 weeks ago when there was still a chance to catch Philly in the reverse standings. Now there's no chance. So, c'est la vie. No, I'm kind of looking forward to the season being over for one major reason, because I am really looking forward to talking about the draft and breaking down these prospects. I am really optimistic about certain players, and I do want to talk about one of those players. I don't think the Raptors are going to have a chance to draft him, Walter Clayton Jr., but I want to give you my little elevator pitch on why I like him so much. Hang on one sec. Also, if you like ginger, this is for you, bro. It is like, it's got like a kick of ginger, and at first it feels like, what the hell just happened to my mouth? But then you drink 2, 3, and you're like, wow, this is really good. So if you're into ginger, this drink is for you, for sure. Okay, so yeah, I think this season, like the Raptors making this decision with Brandon Ingram, it does put you in a very precarious situation from a roster building perspective. I must say. Let me just pull up the Raptors salaries here. Raptors salaries. Okay, spot track. So, I mean, specifically, RJ and Scotty need to go. Maybe you need to go. Okay. All right. So, and this is where we're at, right? You got a lot of money. You got a lot of money tied up. You got a lot of money tied up between Brandon Ingram, Emmanuel Quickley, Scotty Barnes. I don't know why BI is here twice. I think it's because it's the 5-year and then the extension. My bad. This is so counterintuitive. Why is this written out this way? This is very counterintuitive. It's just not a good way to write this out. Hang on. I'm gonna find a better way to. Anyways, I think the Raptors have like some roster building, concerns specifically because regardless of how high you are on Scotty, Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Jakob Poeltl, like there's some concerns that maybe you're not quite good enough to pay the luxury tax. And right now, you're barreling towards luxury tax. Like you're close. Like you're so close. Like a couple million. So what's the cut? Like what is the concession here, right? Are you going to potentially cut something like a really valuable role player like an Ochai Agbaji, are you going to trade that player for like a second round pick to a team that's starving for a 3-and-D wing, or a first round pick or a cheaper first round pick to restart that cycle? You know what I mean? Like, because at some point, this roster is going to get very expensive. I don't know if people realize that, but Grady's extension is going to kick in at some point, right? RJ Barrett's going to need money at some point. You want to be really sure before you extend him to any sort of deal what he's really worth to you and what he's worth to the rest of the league. You know, I think RJ's worth a lot more to the Toronto Raptors specifically than he is worth to just about anybody in the league. Not only is he from here, which is a really big deal to us, he's kind of grown here. He fits with the system. He sort of fills a need on the Raptors that they really don't have. But as Grady and Ochai and Jacoby take a step, are you sort of replacing some of those skills in aggregate? You're replacing the corner shooting, replace the downhill, attack stuff with Jacoby. And it's just like, what? I'm certainly not trading RJ Barrett for an expiring contract and a second round pick. So is there some sort of internal, like if we could put Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster on a lie detector and we ask them to kind of rank out their pieces right now in terms of how high they are on various players and how attached they are to keeping them, Scotty would probably be number one. I wonder who would be number two. I'm suspecting it would probably be someone like Grady or maybe a Jacoby, something like that. Maybe third would be an Emmanuel Quickley or, a Brandon Ingram, maybe a Jakob Poeltl. I venture to guess RJ isn't very high on that list, though. That's just a guess. That's a guess of mine. Because you haven't really shown that you're planning to keep him. His numbers and the hometown, kid element, the fact that he's your leading scorer, lend me to think that his next extension, the fact that he's a former, McDonald's All-American, the fact that he was a top 3 pick, there's a bit of pedigree, a bit of marketing behind him, his national team record with Canada. All of this kind of lends me to think that he's going to be worth around 25 to 30 a year. He could just say, hey, I'm having a comparable season to someone like Emmanuel Quickley. What am I, chopped liver? I'm younger than Emmanuel Quickley. I'm bigger than Emmanuel Quickley. Now I'm playing defense better than Emmanuel Quickley. What do you want from me? Like, why don't I deserve $32 million? Well, now you're in luxury tax hell. You're in luxury tax hell. And you're certainly not prioritizing RJ Barrett over Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes. So are you moving Emmanuel Quickley? You should do RJ mock trades. Sure. If someone wants to call in, there's a call-in link below. We can certainly try it. You can play rival general manager, and I'll pitch you. You can be the Raptors. I'll be rival general manager, and you pitch me your best RJ trade. I'll happily do that. Recruiter dude with the super chat saying, my only concern on the back of this development season is a lingering stench of losing going into next season. I don't think it will, but I'm somewhat cautious. I don't think you need to worry too much about that. The Raptors have done a hell of a lot of winning over the last 3.5 months. And a stinker like this probably sucks, but that was a very desperate team. And you were really, really, really out-talented and outsized completely. You just had no chance in this game. And I'm telling you the truth. You couldn't keep them off the boards. You couldn't keep them away from the paint. And on your side, you couldn't make a three. So it's like, if you're going to be the smaller team, the less desperate team, and you're going to shoot 18, 20% from three, you're going to get blown out every time. Credit to the Raptors for not getting embarrassed. They fought to make this, I don't want to say competitive. I don't want to say respectable. It is what it is. It wasn't a good game. They fought really hard to make this not as terrible as it could have been. It was bad. It was really bad, but it could have been worse, if that makes sense, right? It certainly could have been worse. So Zigsaw Puzzle said, Robin, any realm, can we aim to get Jokic Giannis this summer? The Jokic thing is complicated because my first instinct is to say yes. Both players are facing a situation where there's a lot of upheaval and instability in their organization. Both players have connections to the Toronto Raptors. Both players would, in my humble opinion, be open to playing in Toronto for many reasons. For Giannis, it was his connection to Masai and the Greek community in Toronto, which made the Raptors so confident that they could pitch him in the offseason and free agency. And with Jokic, it is the fact that Toronto has the second largest Serbian population outside of Serbia in the world. They have this incredible connection between him and Darko Rajakovic. I'm not trying to oversell it like they're best friends, but they've known each other for, close to 15 years. They've known of each other for a while. There's also connection to, Evo. Like, we have two Serbian coaches. We have a stable organization. And one thing that I've always noticed with Nikola Jokic is how much he seems to relish and enjoy playing for Serbia. Playing for Serbia is has meant a lot to him through his life. You can see he's a completely different player defensively when he plays for our country versus when he's playing for the Denver Nuggets. A lot of people just chalk this up to Jokic being quirky. But what if, and this is crazy to say, what if you haven't seen the best of Nikola Jokic in the NBA because he just doesn't care that much for the franchise that he plays for? And I'm not saying this to be controversial. I'm just saying, like, your heart is where your heart is, right? There's certain players that really take a lot of pride in playing for their country. You see it with RJ Barrett. His home games in front of the Toronto audience are probably a lot better than his road games because he takes pride in that. He takes pride in Canada. His dad is basically Canadian royalty. His family is Canadian royalty. It matters. Some people are very nationalistic. For Jokic, to look out into the crowd and see thousands of Serbian people every single night with giant Serbian flags, this would be like home away from home. This would be the closest thing. Chicago and Toronto present a completely different option. The snow wouldn't bother him. We have snow in Serbia. So if he asks out, this is the most stable organization, has a track record of winning, has proven to be winning a championship before. I think it's perfectly possible. What would the deal look like? Well, I'm not trading Scotty Barnes, so everyone coming at me with that mess can just shut the hell up about it. But I would certainly say that it would be a very competitive package. And look, your options are somewhat limited with someone like Jokic. It's not that he has a no trade clause, and naturally the Denver Nuggets would be right within their rights to seek the highest bidder. But at the same time, like, he is also a very je ne give a fuck pa type of person. He marches to the beat of his own drum. He could literally threaten to retire if you trade him to a bad franchise, and he wouldn't care. The money doesn't matter at all. So when you take a look at a guy like that, for him, it would be like, trade me to Toronto or fucking, like, I'm retiring. Like, he can make this very ugly. If he feels like they have gone over his head. Now, again, I want to make it clear, this is not me reporting, this is me speculating. The thing with Jokic is they allegedly, he had grown a little frustrated with Michael Malone as well. He didn't necessarily give his blessing, but he didn't protest the firing of Michael Malone. He did not protest the uh, the firing of Calvin Booth. But the Nuggets forever have been cheap. They are cheap. They are a cheap organization. The Cronkies are a cheap ownership group. They do not pay their management well at all, which is why Tim Connolly left, which is why Masai Ujiri left. And I'm pretty sure Nikola Jokic noticed that two of the best executives in the world have literally left this organization. We have long-term contracts that are crippled. We have young players who are not developing. We have, really just terribly mismanaged this. He's doing one of the greatest carry jobs in NBA history. Okay. It's the biggest carry job in NBA history. And look, Scotty is a very, very, very much, in my opinion, much better player than Aaron Gordon. I think defensively and offensively, his upside is so much higher. But let's not pretend like Nikola Jokic hasn't worked with players like Scotty Barnes before. He does. He does. There's several, and this is you'd be combining two of the highest IQ players in the league. Naturally, Jokic being the stretch five, he can shoot. Scotty can cut. Scotty can play a little bit more off the ball. He can also play on the ball. They would be a perfect pairing together. And also, Scotty can cover a lot of ground defensively for Jokic. I'm not trading Scottie Barnes for Nikola Jokic because I want to pair them. I'm not trying to trade one for the other. What I would trade, this is where lottery luck will come into hand. So look, if I'm Masai Ujiri and I get the 3rd overall pick in this draft, I'm calling the Denver Nuggets right away and getting a feeler. RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, Grady Dick. Take another young player, give you number 3. We'll give you 4 future firsts. That's your offer. You're getting a lion's share offer. You're not getting a superstar young player like an Amen Thompson or something like that. You know, that's not superstar, but I mean, you're not getting that player, fine. But you are getting like all the pieces to rebuild. And if you're the Raptors, you're keeping Jokic, Barnes, Scotty, Jamal Shed, Jacoby Walter. Oh shit, Jakob. We're gonna trade Jakob instead of Quickley. So not Quickley. You keep Quickley. You need the shooting. So you trade RJ, Jakob plus youth plus the top 3 pick plus a boatload of draft picks. That type of deal. Yeah, that's the type of deal. And I mean, like you make that deal understanding that Jokic is 30 going on 31, that he's probably still going to be the best player in the world for 3 years, and then after that he's probably going to be one of the 4 best players in the world for the next 5 years. You're giving yourself, or 3 years at least, his game has never been based on burst or athleticism, and you pray that with a coach like Darko in a European style system that Jokic will obviously relish, that it would be much happier times for him. The Giannis equation is a little bit harder. Giannis plus Scotty is a very awkward fit. So if you're trading for Giannis, you're probably trading Scotty Barnes, at which point I'm hanging up the phone and I'm saying no. Now, a lot of people think that that's crazy, but, I disagree. I think Giannis is a really, really tough player to build around going forward. I think the mid-range shooting has been very encouraging, doesn't shoot threes very well. The defense is a little bit overrated, in my opinion. The passing is a little bit overrated, in my opinion. When the athleticism goes a little bit, I think you're probably going to see a player who's going to stabilize as like a top 10 player who has a lot of usage concerns and is a little bit difficult to build around. You know what I mean? Giannis plus Brandon Ingram is a pretty good pairing, but it's not a championship pairing. You need a dynamic guard to play with him. You need plenty of defense. You need a stretch big. There's so many pieces that you need to pair him with. You can't play him with Jakob Poeltl. So you're just going to be like in a really tough situation there. So yeah, I would much rather go for Jokic, Shea. I mean, obviously anyone would rather go for those 2 players. They're the 2 best players in the league. In terms of other stars that you could look to target, Devin Booker was one player that I talked about a lot at the trade deadline as a player that I would look to target with a really, really big offer. If you end up getting the 4th pick, would that be the type of deal that actually gets it done? You trade a couple of these picks, you trade a couple of these young players, you add in a contract like RJ, and maybe you throw in another big contract. The thing is, you just don't have a lot of big contracts. Those medium-sized contracts like the Bruce Browns and the Kelly Olynyk's, those are very useful when constructing trades. You don't have a lot of them. You have 2 giant contracts attached to players that I presume you don't want to get rid of in Scotty and BI. Then you've got 3 kind of mid to jumbo size contracts in Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, and Jakob Poeltl, who are kind of foundational to what you do. You know what I mean? Like, you're not really deep at point guard. Like, you can't just lose Emmanuel Quickley for nothing and then not get something back. So it's a little bit tough. Now, obviously, you don't need to rush this process. You can just, if you do luck into a top 4 pick, you can absolutely use it and pick a player that you believe can grow with this core. But, I think if you get a chance to trade for Jokic, you have to do it. You have to do it. He's one of probably the 10 to 15 greatest players of all time. He's still very much in his peak right now. He is literally having the best season of his life, even though he's not going to win MVP this year. He's having the best season of his life. He would be a marketing dream. I don't even want to think about what the tickets would cost. I don't want to think about that. I don't want to tell you like what kind of brand offering he would get. The best player in the world playing in Canada, like, you don't even understand. Like, he is so funny marketable. Like, he's so like, he's weirdly charismatic without trying. Like, he would make so much more money here than Denver. Like, he's like shit. Like, I actually know someone who knows him, and I'm gonna get that person to communicate this message to him. Like, Toronto is open to you, bro. Like, it's nuts. Okay, we got a caller, Dot. Dot, what's up?
Hey, brother, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I was just calling because I'm a Raptors fan, and I'm not as big on Scotty as you and some others, but I definitely see the potential and the vision. I just wanted to kind of ask. I saw you put out a tweet with, talking about him and Ja the other day, and I just kind of wanted you to elaborate. Why would you take Scotty 10 times out of 10, despite the differences in their, offensive engine ability and their scoring ability?
Offensive engine ability. Uh, I don't think Ja processes the game nearly as well as people think he does. I think he kind of reads the game really poorly. I think he's a really quick twitch athlete, and obviously, like, the highlight plays of Ja Morant are like jaw dropping. I've been a very big defender of him being a top 5 point guard in the league for a while, but watching him this season, knowing all the distractions that come with Ja, the injury history that can sometimes come with quick twitch, smaller guards, watching him defensively, like, it's not just Scotty is like one of the 10, 12, 15 best defenders in the league. Ja might be one of the 25 to 30 worst defenders in the league based on the 10 games I've watched this season. He's horrible. He gets lost every single time, and the shooting is a concern for both. So the outside shooting, like, Ja bricked open three after open three, free throw after free throw yesterday. So yeah, like, I get it. Ja's more talented offensively. Scotty's bigger, Scotty's younger, Scotty's cheaper. Well, I mean, they're similar, and Scotty's a way better defender. I take Scotty.
Okay, yeah, I see where you're coming from. I would just have to say, like, yeah, Jaws. This isn't the best season to argue for Ja because we know, he was pretty bad for most of it. But I think that a lot of that is noisy. I think through his career, we've seen the guy he is, and I
Sure.
just think when you generate that much rim pressure, I think when you can make defense collapse at the rate that he can, and he can make them pay. I don't know. I just think he would be so good for this franchise to have a guy like that that others can feed off because we have a lot of great complementary pieces, but we don't have like that engine. So I know obviously we're probably we're not going to get Ja. This is all hypothetical, but I just think getting a guy like that would just
If
do
you offered
wonders.
Scotty Barnes to them right now for Ja Morant, I can almost guarantee you 100% you get that deal done. Like, they
Yeah,
would say
I could
yes.
see that. I could see that because I think Memphis is kind of sick of Ja, and I think Scotty kind of fits Memphis well. So I could see that. But I don't know. I think Ja's going to surprise a lot of people in the next couple of years. I think he's going to bounce back. To be honest, I think
I
I
think
would
he's
I
going the
would buy
wrong way,
low on him.
man. I think he's going the wrong way. Look,
Yeah,
I think there's a prevailing misconception that players peak from 26 to 30. A lot of players peak
yeah,
from 26 to 30, but a lot of players peak at 21. A lot.
yeah,
It's like a shocking amount that peak. You can see their best season 21 to 22. Uh,
yeah.
Luca is a player that's concerning me, but he always has the size to fall back on, and he has like generational vision for the game. So even when Luca
Mhm.
kind of loses a step, two step, three step, the rim pressure goes away. He's not attacking the rim as much. His percentage is not as good in those ranges. The jump shot's been a little bit wonky. Jump shot's always been inconsistent with Luca and Ja. It doesn't concern me as much. See, there's a player archetype that doesn't concern me as much when they age, and then there's this player archetype that concerns me a lot when they age. And the jump shot is the great equalizer, and size is a great equalizer, strength is a great equalizer, and well-rounded defense and IQ are great equalizers because, again, Kyle Anderson can be very, very serviceable. Like, he's still a serviceable player because he just reads the game really well, and he's
Mhm.
6'9". Nicholas Batum, 6'8", very smart player. Shane Battier, 6'7", 6'8", very smart player. The combination of being cerebral and large can really help you extend your NBA career and extend your shelf life as a valuable player. Even Lamar Odom, when you consider it, that big playmaker, right? When you consider smaller playmakers, they really have to be dialed into their conditioning, and it really helps if they can shoot. So if you think about Ja Morant and Scotty Barnes pretty much shooting almost identical from three on their career. I mean, granted, Scotty actually came into this season shooting better than Ja Morant on his career, which is nuts. So it's really this season, him shooting 26% with this terrible, terrible process that he's had this season that's really dipped him below John Morant. He walked into the season with better 3-point shooting splits than John Morant. That should scare the living shit out of you, because when that rim pressure goes away, I mean, and again, it will go away the second the twitch goes away.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like Vince Carter. Like Vince Carter was a super, super bursty, elastic, athletic, jump out of the gym, pogo stick, for his first 3-4 years. But then you saw the jump shot really become like the go-to as opposed to the counter. And
Yeah.
because he was 6'7" and he could shoot, and he was a pretty damn good passer, he was able to extend his career into his 40s. But if Vince Carter was 6'1" and he couldn't shoot, he'd be done.
Yeah.
So it's just, yeah. I mean, I think the worst case scenario for John Morant is Steve Francis,
Okay. I
and
can
that's
see that. Yeah.
really, really bad.
No, yeah, I agree with you. I think long term, you're 100% right. I still think he has, I think the next 3 4 years, I think his athleticism will mostly stay intact, and I think he'll still have some All-Star level seasons. But I would agree, once he turns 30 and the clock kind of starts ticking that way, not a great long term investment. But I just wish we kind of, I don't know, man. I'm not a big fan of the Brandon Ingram trade, personally. I
Why
kind
not?
of just because I just feel like it doesn't help our team needs. I think we need like a very good creator that Scotty can feed off of, and I just don't think Bi is that guy. I don't like that he did improve his 3-point shot last year, so I could see that being something that he actually becomes good at. But I don't know, it's too small of a sample to say definitively. I just don't love his profile for our team. That's just the short answer of that. I think, especially for Scotty, I would like someone like. Funny enough, we can't get him, but someone like a Cade Cunningham. Like, do you see how well like Asar and guys like that feed off Cade and like I feel like Scotty would play so well with someone like that.
Okay, so interestingly enough, Cade averages 12 assists per 100 possessions, right? Which is a
Hmm.
lot. And you saying he's a creator. Do you know how many
Hmm.
turnovers he averages?
You average 6 per 100.
Yeah. So a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio is not a creator that I want on my team. I think Scotty's a better passer than Cade.
I think there needs to be more context that goes into that though. I kind of really don't like when people nitpick turnovers for very high volume, high usage, creators and
It's been an
engines.
issue. It's been an issue for 5 years, man. It's been
Well,
an
I mean,
issue. We're going right back to Oklahoma State. I mean, he's always a high turnover player. Look, it's the same thing with Russell Westbrook. I'm infamous for saying I don't think Russell Westbrook's a top 50 passer of all time. People give me shit for it all the time. I'm sorry. Like, the types of turnovers matter. It's not just that you're getting
I agree
turnovers because
100%.
it's
Yeah.
high usage. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not trying the most complicated passes. You're literally tossing out like simple. You're making turnovers on simple entry passes because you don't project the game well. And then I also care very much about how advanced your reads are. Like, for instance, there's a prospect in this year's draft, Derek Queen. He doesn't have like he has a ton of turnovers this year, and his assist rate is not very high. When you actually watch him play, the sheer difficulty of the passes that he's making and some of the dexterity with the left hand, right hand, the advanced reads, how he creates those passing angles, is actually a very special passer that
Hmm.
Derek Queen is. So the assist to turnover ratio is like, it doesn't tell the full story with him. With Cade, I think he's a very good passer. I don't think he's a great passer. I think he's over leveraged in that role, and I think I think he's all NBA this year, and I think he deserved his All Star. But I don't think he's had a better season than Tyrese Halliburton. Like, I don't know. I think the best guard for Scotty would be like someone like Kyrie Irving. Kyrie, I could see him playing off of. I could have seen him playing off of De'Aaron Fox, although I'm not really rating De'Aaron Fox's passing that much. If you want to take a player that could be gettable, Malik Monk. Malik Monk would be great. You know, so
Yeah.
yeah, I think Malik. You might find this controversial. I think Malik's a better passer than Cade too. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
and
definitely.
you know what? I think Brandon Ingram's a better passer than Cade. I think Bi is a
Yeah.
great passer. So
Yeah. I think we have very different perceptions of Kate's passing. We can get into that if you want, but I just disagree. I think he's just first of all part of playmaking, and I want to broaden it to playmaking, not just passing, right? Because
that's a
we
different
acknowledge
question though. That's a different
So
question.
do you
That's a
want to?
totally
So do
different.
you want to talk about playmaking or passing?
No, I think Cade is a better playmaker than a lot of those players. I think
Yeah.
when we hone in just on the passing angle of the playmaking, because like what Cade can do is he can sort of manipulate defenses, kind of crawl into the center, create
Hmm.
shots kind of out of nowhere. That's something that Scotty's really working towards, and we don't know if he'll ever get there. I mean, honest,
Hmm.
we don't know if he's ever going to get there. He, in theory, should be able to get there. He's everything. He's everything that Cade Cunningham was built out to be, except one thing. So, Cade was built as a 6'8" jumbo creator with this massive wingspan who had positive, who's going to be a really positive defender on the next level. And he's not 6'8". He's 6'6".
Yeah. He's 6'6". Yeah.
And yeah, and he's not like this like overwhelmingly positive defender. I mean, it's great that he's contributing, but he's like the seventh best defender on his own team this year. He's not a great defender. Uh, so putting shooters around him has really helped him. Putting great defenders around him has lightened the load. And so now it's just like the craft. The craft of Cade is something that's always been special. Like the craft, which is to say, like his bag work, how he
Hmm.
manipulates, a little bit like Dylan Harper. I'm curious if you've watched Dylan Harper at Rutgers. Do you prefer Dylan Harper or Cade?
As prospects.
Well, I mean, if you were the Detroit Pistons, if they offered you Dylan Harper for Cade Cunningham right now,
Absolutely not.
okay,
Absolutely not.
okay. Yeah, so I mean, I think that that's where we might disagree because the rim
Hmm.
pressure that you were talking about with John Morant, that's what's not there with Cade.
Hmm. No, I agree. I agree.
The
Dylan has,
efficiency,
yeah.
the efficiency has not been there. So what's really been the saving grace this year is number one, a lot of offense comes off of defense. He's a good transition passer. Number two, you're getting a lot of spacing on those 3-point shooters, specifically Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr.
Hmm.
Isaiah Stewart doing a lot of heavy lifting, as a 3-point stretch big. And then on the other side of it, I think honestly, it's just been like his 3-point shot has been hitting, and he's taking a decent volume of them, and his mid-range shot is hitting, and he's hitting a decent volume of them. I don't know if he's ever going to be like a great around the paint finisher. If he ever becomes a great around the paint finisher, I'll take back everything I ever said.
Hmm.
Everything I ever said. Because if he starts shooting like north of like 71%, 69%, 66%, 65% at the rim, I will consider that like, okay, we are now talking about an all NBA perennial stamp it franchise player. But
Hmm.
until that happens, until the turnovers come down a little bit, I can't put him as a prospect above Dylan Harper. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from. I disagree, but nothing you're
Yeah.
saying is just totally crazy. I would just say, one, Detroit, yes, they made a big improvement in their spacing and as far as adding shooters and vets to this roster, but when you really look at it, he's still playing with limited spacing most of the time. Jalen Duren is someone that can't shoot a lick. I mean, me and you can probably shoot better than him. Asar Thompson's another guy, just can't shoot at all. He's a great cutter, which makes their offense work a lot because his man will sag down, be on the block or something. They'll be
Right.
ball watching on Cade, and Asar will just slip behind him and get a layup or dunk. So
Sure.
he does know how to leverage his lack of shooting, but still not a good shooter. His man usually sags in the paint on Cade and Duren pick and rolls. Tobias Harris is their third best shooter, and he's shooting 33% from three this year. So teams will disrespect him a lot too, and they'll favor guarding Cade on the drive and trying to take away that Duren lob threat as well. So I honestly, and I watch a good amount of Pistons games, and I think the efficiency we would see his efficiency go up, especially at the rim, if he was playing with like a Tyrese Halliburton type of spacing. Like when you watch the Pacers, there's almost no defenders in the paint ever. They're so spread out, and they attack you fast too. They get so much. They're the best transition offense in the league. Which, to Tyrese Halliburton's credit, he's an amazing transition point guard. But like you said, Cade is also very good at that. I think if we saw him play that kind of style, we'd see the efficiency rise.
Hmm.
And with this playmaking, what I was saying initially was like Scotty would benefit so much with someone with that type of gravity who can hit cutters, who can manipulate defenses, who can
Hmm.
just have that kind of impact. Like
Yeah.
I just feel like Scotty would benefit so much with that kind of guy. I feel like you'd agree based on how I've heard you talk about Scotty's strengths and how you don't want him to really be an offensive engine. You want him to kind of be a secondary creator.
I didn't say that ever.
Okay, then I'm sorry for misquoting you.
You might be
Yeah,
mistaking me
I'm
for somebody
mistaken. You.
else.
My bad on that.
No worries. Yeah, I definitely understand that the pathway seems harder for Scotty because again, like some of his creation stuff feels so weak. But today, you see him in this game where there's no spacing for him today, right? It's just
Mhm.
Ochai Agbaji and nobody else is being respected. Jameson battle a little bit, but I mean, they're guarding him, they're packing the paint, and he's still finding ways to kind of finish over Anthony Davis. Taking Anthony Davis one on one, is that something you think Cade Cunningham can do? Taking Anthony Davis one on one in the
Uh,
post and putting a hook shot over him, that's tough shit, man.
no,
And
that's
and when
tough.
he's
Yeah.
locked in, and again, like it's like, uh stretches of Scotty's career, specifically the first 34 games of last year where, he had Dennis Schroeder, he had OG, he had Pascal. He wasn't exerting himself too much on defense. He was feeling very healthy. We weren't dealing with nagging injuries. There was no ankle injuries. Yo, man, 6.2 box plus minus. That's not a height that Cade has ever touched, ever, and probably will never touch. Does not rank well on that stat. 39% from three. I mean, right now Cade's at 35%. And his percentages have fallen, granted, right? I don't think you could necessarily say like, I mean, and Scotty was on a roughly 500 team to start out the season last year, so, as their best player. He made All-Star over Pascal Siakam, who was pretty much on his team for that entire stretch. So, it's no conspiracy here. Scotty's a very, very, very good player, and I just think because of how these players came out of college, I mean, we all knew that Cade was way ahead. We knew that. We all knew that. I think the Raptors knew that. I think anyone with half a brain cell knew that. I knew that. I mean, Cade was number one on my board too. I
Mhm.
liked Scotty more, but I knew that the Raptors, if they had the number one pick, probably would have picked Cade or Evan Mobley.
Yeah.
That being said, I did have Scotty number three on my board. And the reason that I think the trajectory for Scotty is so different is because he just had a much further path to go. So this is like
Mhm.
comparing OJ Mayo, rookie season OJ Mayo versus Kawhi Leonard or Paul George. Like it's like, bro, like two of these guys can barely dribble. The other guy's got like the biggest bag in the world. But
Mhm.
people develop shit at different times. Scotty didn't develop the bag much at all. I mean, I've watched him since high school. Like he's had a very uncomplicated, like he's basically like that player on 2K that you put basic, handle on. He
Yeah.
doesn't have anything. But then you see stretches this season where it's looking a lot more fluid. He's getting a lot more flexible with it. He's getting a lot more dynamic. He's trying some new stuff. And then, of course, the lowlights are so embarrassing, just dribbling the ball and it just dribbles over his head, or he's dribbling the ball and it just gets away from him, or he tries to put it behind his back and it just but there's complications with being as large as Scotty is. His hands are huge, his arms are huge. This is a really, like, when you think about it, being coordinated, it really does come down to your limbs. And like when you look at Scotty's legs, they're like a 7-footer's legs.
Mhm.
Like today I was watching him versus Anthony Davis. Hip to hip, they were dead even. Dead even.
Yeah.
You know? So how fluid do we expect 7-footers to be? Not very fluid at all because they're huge human beings. His arms are just as long as Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis has, I think, a 7'4", 7'5" wingspan. Scotty has a 7'4" wingspan. His hands are just as big as Anthony Davis. So he has all the complications in terms of dribbling and shooting as a center, but he's not a center. So it's kind of like this weird thing where, all that positional versatility that, he can play all 5 positions on offense and defense. It's a cheat code. Like nobody else in the league that I can think of can play 5 positions on both sides. Can you think of another player who can play 5 positions on both sides? I'll guarantee you can't come up with more than 3 names.
Yeah. I mean, first guys that come to mind would be like Giannis and Amin Thompson, but I mean, yeah, there's not many guys.
Amen
And Amin can't
Thompson.
play five, but he can play 1 through 4. Giannis can play 1 through 5.
You think Giannis could guard point guards?
Not consistently.
I don't
I
think
would
Giannis can guard twos right now.
not consistently. If you're saying like on a consistent basis, then no, I wouldn't say so. But for stretches, yes, I think he could.
So I mean, like the only players that I can think of that are positionally versatile, like Scotty, who can really guard 5 positions, might be
Mhm.
OG,
Yeah.
Scotty. Tatum, maybe
Yeah, I was
Tatum.
thinking of Tatum as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a really rare archetype, and those archetypes all get paid. They get paid a lot of money because that is, when you think about building around Scotty with this lineup, it's kind of cool that you just kind of have this player who could occasionally start at the 1 for you, but if Jakob Poeltl's out, he could start at the 5 for you. If BI's out, he can start at the 4 for you. That's not something that RJ can do for you. That's not something
Oh,
that
absolutely
Jalen
not.
Brown can do for you. It's certainly not something John Morant and Kade Cunningham can do for you. Kade can't start at 2 positions. Like Kade can play 1 through 3. That's it. If you put
Mhm.
Kade at the 4, he's too small,
Yeah.
right? So it's just
100%.
like it is an advantage. So it's just like, you know, I think of it this way. Scotty is like an 85th percentile point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. If Cade is an 88th percentile shooting guard and an 85th percentile point guard and maybe an 87th percentile small forward, he's probably like a 30th percentile center and probably like a 45th percentile power forward. How much do you value the extra boost that you get on the versatility from Scotty versus the lack of versatility? I think for most people, because we see players consistently play the role that they play, we judge them for what they do as opposed to what they could hypothetically do. But I
Hmm.
think when you get into a pinch, when you're in a playoff series and your center goes down for the series, and you have this player who can just jump in and play center for you for like a series, and I mean, if you put enough size around him, he can play center. I've seen him lock up Nikola Jokic for an entire fourth quarter and hold him to 0 points. Like this is like we've seen him guard. We saw him guard Anthony Davis today. We've seen him guard Joel Embiid. We've seen him guard Giannis. We've seen him guard Tatum. We've seen him guard Steph. Like that should never be taken for granted. That's why I would rather build around him than Ja, because Ja can't guard any of those players. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I get what you mean 100%. And Scotty's the true Swiss Army knife. You're not gonna get any pushback from that on me. He's unbelievably versatile on both ends. But that's kind of why would want someone like a Cade next to him, so he can kind of like hone in on that versatility. He can float around the court. He can be a roamer on defense. He can take some load off him offensively and cut and move off ball and get out in transition and just kind of be like a secondary kind of scorer. The same tools you said, you know how you were saying like he's got the center stuff with you're comparing him to AD. I think that's kind of what holds him back as a primary creator though. And I think Cade doesn't have those limitations as a primary creator. And you're talking about Scotty going up on sorry, who'd you say he was? Oh, on Anthony Davis today. I've seen Cade, to his credit, give Dyson Daniels 40 balls. I've seen him hit left-handed hook off the glass game winners on Dyson Daniels.
Hmm.
And even today, against the Bucks, I think he had like 36 on 80 true shooting and 12 assists. Just dominating Brook and Giannis in the paint too, which is it's weird with Cade. Like when you watch the eye test, the finishes can sometimes just be mesmerizing. It's like how is this guy's finishing percentages so low? And you watch the game, it's like he's making incredible finishes.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I know you prefer Scotty by a long shot, and I get where you're coming from with it. You can't question his versatility and how resourceful he can be. And he's very portable. You can put Scotty on any team, and his impact is going to be there. And I value
Hmm.
that. Um, Again, my only thing is I just don't want him to be the primary creator. I don't think he can be the primary creator on a championship team. I think he needs to be that second or maybe even third guy. And I think that takes pressure off him, and it's going to boost his efficiency. It's going to get him all NBA defensive teams. It's going to it's going to make him stand out on defense, especially. Like, you know how much energy you got to have, bro, to have the volume and usage he's had on offense this year, and then go on the other end and guard guys like Anthony Davis, and and rotate the way he does and be everywhere like he is.
Hmm.
Like, I want someone to take that pressure off him. I don't know if Bi is that guy. I mean, I wish we had someone like Cade that could really do that.
Yeah, I think for Brandon Ingram, just again, I think he's a bigger player. That helps. Like he's so doubled for a reason. He's one of the most frequently doubled players in the post. He's a nightmare. He is, he's a better shooter than Cade. Like career over. He's shown that ability to be a better shooter. I think the Raptors can unlock a different version of Brandon Ingram than the one you've seen in the past it really will come down to whether BI wants to buy into Darko Ball or if he doesn't want to buy into Darko Ball. If he's not going to buy into Darko Ball, he's going to stick out. And if he does buy in, which I suspect he will, from what I've heard kind of privately, I've heard that he's really receptive to changing and that he's receptive to being more of an off-ball threat. He's receptive to, fading out to the corners and being more of a pick and pop type of player. I think, he presents a really interesting wrinkle, and let's just be real. Brandon Ingram was not coming for the same price as Kade Cunningham.
Of
So,
course not.
if you do end up, like, if you wanted to make a trade for Cade right now, like, I don't think he's available. But if you wanted to make a trade, it would probably start with like 5 first-round picks, 3 swaps, and like your entire, boatload of young players. Brandon Ingram was had for one probably mid first-round pick next year, and 2 expirings that you had no, two or three, two players that you had no interest in having on your team, including an expiring. So you had him,
Yeah.
you got him for nothing. And he's a major talent upgrade over anybody that Scotty has played with, in my opinion. I think he's more talented than Pascal Siakam as a scorer. I think he's better than Pascal as a scorer. I think he's more dynamic than Pascal as a passer. I think this is the most talented player that Scotty's ever played with. And I think that they'll make each other better. And I don't think BI is coming here to like be like ball dominant or like, command 36% usage or some bullshit like that. I think he's a really unselfish player. Played really well off of Zion. And, for Scotty, it's like, it doesn't feel like, sometimes you watch him play and you're like, yeah, maybe the Aaron Gordon, Draymond Green comparisons were right. Like maybe it doesn't. But then you watch him play when he's really getting going, and you watch that game against the Celtics where he hit 7 threes, or you watch that game against San Antonio where he stormed that huge comeback, or you watch any one of those fourth quarters that he put up in his second year when he was struggling, where he put up like 19 points in the fourth quarter against Giannis and the Bucks, or there's so many games where he's relocating on catch and shoot threes. Like I just think like the shooting has been such a sore for him, but I've definitely seen the handle get better. I've seen the mid post stuff get better. I'm seeing his footwork get better. And it doesn't feel like an obvious thing because we haven't really seen a player like this. And I dare you to go through NBA history and find one player with his physical profile. You will not find one. There is not a single player who has this physical profile. And that's just, there's players who are close, like Giannis, Shaq, you know what I mean? But it's like in this, you knew you were in for a weird ride with him when in this rookie season, you would look up like, I wonder when's the last time a player did this, and you would come up with like Magic Johnson on one stat, and then on the other stat you would come up with Shaquille O'Neal, and then on the other stat you would come up with like Giannis, and on the other stat you would come up with like Larry Bird or something. Like it's just like a weirdest player, and I think at 23, I give this 2 more years to see if it blossoms into a superstar. But if it doesn't blossom into a superstar, at the very least, you have a very fairly paid championship piece that can be a top 3 piece on a championship team. You know what I mean? But I do think he'll become a superstar. I really do. Yeah. Anyways, man, thanks a lot for calling in. Appreciate it. Appreciate the different perspective. Yeah. Any final thoughts?
No, man. Just good having the convo, and I appreciate just the dialogue and everything. So have a good
Appreciate it.
night, man.
Have a good night. See ya. Sam, what's up?
What's up? I have a question. You were talking about it earlier.
Sure.
With the Raptors in the second apron. So I decided to look it up, and we're 10th in salary.
Next year?
24, 25. Next year, we're 11th next year.
Okay.
But actually, I mean, it's okay. So yeah, all the teams ahead of us as well are all like playoff teams. So I'm kind of I just really don't like how close we are to the second apron right now.
We're nowhere near the second apron. I don't know what site you're looking at. We're not close to the second apron. We're not close to the first apron. We're close to luxury tax. That we're close to, but we're not close to that. You may be looking at Chris Boucher's cap hold of 20 plus million and probably a traded player exception. Those are probably on the books. Those just need to be removed. I promise you we're not an apron team next year.
For next year? Okay.
Yeah, we're not
Okay,
an anchoring team.
good, because
I very,
I
very
was
much
wondering
don't
what
think we're
that.
going to be I don't think we're going to be a luxury tax team, but I mean,
Yeah,
it's possible that if we make a few moves the wrong way, yeah, we're staring at the luxury tax
I
barrel right now.
yeah, I was getting scared about that because that's never mind. I was I also saw the panel today, and there's also a thing about the PCL judges that I think is kind of I I feel like that the judges themselves, whoever they may be, um, they build their impressions off of the first round. I find because through all of the debates I've seen,
Mhm.
whoever won the first round won the entire debate. So,
The first round or the first debate?
like the first talking point within the debates.
Okay, interesting. I
Um,
mean, I have not looked at that, but
yeah,
that would be interesting. No, I've had a lot of issues with how this shit has been judged. I just don't like it. I've been very frustrated by it. I don't believe that show should have been bounced today. And I said it, and
I don't think either.
and
Yeah.
then Real Talk, who's the person that, presumably allegedly beat Cho, got really upset about this and was calling me a hoe and all that stuff. I don't
Oh,
appreciate
really?
that shit either. He's like, "Oh, you the PC hoe. Everyone done ran through you." I was like, before I wanted to
Yeah.
laugh, but I'm also like, why is this getting so fucking personal over some bullshit? Like me saying Chill won should not be a surprise to anybody. Obviously, I'm gonna say Chill won, but I actually thought Chill won. I'm not just saying that because I like Chill. I think Chill won. So that was my perspective on it. The Jordan and Mars thing was very, very close to me. So really difficult to call that one. But yeah,
Um, and I just have one last thing. I was wondering what the future of Canadian bigs look like. Um,
Canadian bigs.
yeah, like for I don't know if you look at like FIBA, like Team Canada FIBA,
Hmm.
or uh for
Well, I
like
mean,
future Olympics, because
Leonard Miller, and
okay,
Zach Edey.
yeah,
That's a.
yeah,
I'm not too plugged in with the grassroots stuff in Canada. I gotta tell you, like I'm just not. I'll probably
okay,
get more plugged into it at some point, but I think this might be like the last, like the Kem Birch, Kelly Olynyk, that whole.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's kind of past its due now, and you just need to look at the next. But Zach Edey could be really, really good for FIBA play, man.
I think so too. Just size. For
Yeah, and he's also really good. He's just a really good player. Like I understand, like uh, for the NBA there might be some complications, but he's fared pretty well in the NBA, and I think he'll do even better in FIBA.
yeah. Okay, that's all.
All right,
Thanks.
perfect, man. Thanks for calling in, Sam. Okay, so we got the trade machine open, and I really like. I don't. I don't know. Like I think the the Bleacher Report article suggested trading RJ Barrett for Marcus Smart plus a pick. I think for me, the more confusing part is who needs RJ Barrett? Who needs Emmanuel Quickly? Because it is going to be one of these two or three teams. Sorry, it's going to be one of these 2, 3 players right here, right? It's not going to be Scotty and it's not going to be Bi. So if you look at it from that perspective, you could certainly say a team like, okay, the Wizards, the Nets, the Sixers, right? Like, what would a deal with the Nets look like? I don't know. It would probably be a swap for. I mean, would you guys do this? I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, I really appreciate the volume shooting of Cameron Johnson. On the other hand, I am signing up for the significantly more injury prone 5 years older player who's not from Canada. So that maybe doesn't make sense, but it does help you save some money. It shaves 3 million off your cap sheet and that's actually the gap, right? That's the gap. So Cameron being a slightly better defender, considerably better shooter, maybe that helps you, right? Shorter contract as well. Well, no, they're the same contract. So yeah, I think maybe it could be a move like that. It would just be like kind of a lateral move where Maybe you give them youth and upside. You take something that fits a little bit better with your roster because, again, if you get Cameron Johnson, that makes you huge, right? Because he moves down to the 4, BI moves to the 3, Scotty moves to the 2, IQ moves to the 1. You're now like a really big team. Military Man saying trading RJ for Cam would actually be great. Yeah, depending on what your thoughts and sentiments are. What about the Kings? Would we do RJ Barrett for Malik Monk? Perchance, give them a little more youth. We get an equally piss poor defender, a little less size, but is cheaper, right? And if you want a Canadian back, you could easily do something like Trey Lyles, or I don't know if Jake LaRavia. Obviously, you can't get Keon Ellis. Yeah, something like that. Malik is such an underrated passer, but RJ's grown into his role as a passer too. I'm honestly not sure I want to trade RJ. I'm going to be honest. I don't think I want to trade RJ. Would I be open to trading Emmanuel Quickley? Let's see. Emmanuel Quickley for... Okay, so who are the teams that were super interested in Emmanuel Quickley? Well, the Spurs were interested in Emmanuel Quickley, but they already got De'Aaron Fox. The Warriors are not. The Memphis Grizzlies. Let's make dreams come true. No, that wouldn't work. Would you guys do Emmanuel Quickley for Desmond Bane? Doesn't really help our cap sheet. And I don't necessarily know if they would do it, because IQ plus John Morant is a really weird backcourt. They'd probably have to move off of, and I think Desmond's a better player, if I'm being honest. What about the Pistons? They have some cap flexibility. They actually have a lot of cap flexibility. So hypothetically, you need a power forward. They need shooting next to Cade. Would you do Emmanuel Quickley for Tobias Harris and a young player like maybe Ron Holland? I mean, you end up in kind of the same place financially, but you get an extra one. Or Orlando is another good idea, but they have Jalen Suggs signed up to a really big deal, and then Paolo's deal kicks in next year, and Franz's deal actually kicks in this summer, so that's a little bit harder to imagine. But I don't know if you would do KCP because he is 32 years old and probably going to age horribly on that deal. I don't think we do Wendell Carter because he had a really bad year. I don't think they trade Mo Wagner. Goga Batadze is honestly very, very good young. He's a really good young player. He's a really good young player. I don't know, man. I think the draft pick that the Raptors get is going to present them with. If we get Ron Holland, I'll be happy. Honestly, I know as the person that pitched it, I'm gonna be honest, I wouldn't be that happy. I'm not a big fan, but it's youth. People will get excited about it. Anyways, what more can I say about this game that I haven't already? Ultimately, look, 81. This is game 81. It's down the hatch. Let's just get through game 82 and we can turn our attention full force to the draft. May 12th is the lottery. It is currently April 12th. I will remind you that on April 16th, we are screening an incredible feature for the first time in years in Canada for Canada Film Day. It is called Copenhagen. It is by an incredible director, Mark Rosso. It is screening at 7 o'clock at the Carlton Cinema on April 16th. Definitely come out. It is free tickets. You can grab your tickets via the link, which I will put in the description afterwards, which I completely forgot to put in today, but I'll definitely put it in for the next live. It's a great film. It's screening at 7 o'clock. So if you got nothing to do on Wednesday night, we will have you covered for the playoffs. We'll have you covered for the draft all summer. I appreciate y'all. We're very, very close to 12,500 subscribers. So if you haven't subbed up, definitely consider doing so. And yes, one final shout out, which I already gave them a shout out, but Essentials Organic Juices. I just, again, I promise you're not paying me anything to say this. I really enjoy this. You see me sipping on it the entire time. It's just really refreshing. It's really refreshing. It's really soothing. And yeah, Clutch Data saying, dang, free movie. Yes, it is a free movie for Canada Film Day because we are celebrating Canadian film. And yeah, it feels like celebrating Canada feels like it has a different meaning right now, given everything that's happening in the United States. So yeah, show some civic pride, show some Canadian pride, and yeah, are you going to be at the door? I'll be there. I will be doing the intro. So definitely show up, say hi. All right. I'll talk to y'all later. Have a great one. Drop some suggestions for topics that you want. Maybe best guards in the NBA draft, maybe best bigs, best trades. I don't know what you want to, but once this video goes live, drop me a comment. Let me know what video you want to see. It is 1 a.m. Have a good night, y'all. And thank you very, very much to Recruiter Dude for the super chat. Appreciate you as always. Cheers.